Are you obsessed with dahlias? You will fit in perfectly on this episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun as we talk with grower and software designer Holly Park about how to grow, track, and sell your favorite blooms. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, root stock, feed stock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun. I am your host, Kay Castrataro. We are sponsored, as always, by Penlight for Farmers. We are helping you create purposeful farm lives full of time, energy, and abundance. And today, we have the amazing Holly Park from Scout Hill Farm. Holly, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. So, usually I just have you introduce yourself because I think it's so much more powerful when people get to tell their own stories instead of me trying to tell their stories for them. So tell us who you are, how you got into this farming life and your design business, everything. Let us know who you are.
Yeah, so I am a second year flower farmer, although I've been gardening for an awfully long time. And so I'm going into my second season here of officially selling. I do workshops, I sell bouquets every week in the summer, and I do garden design, like you mentioned. I also have, with my husband, a business around dahlia software. So we're just going all in with these side hustles around gardening in hopes of eventually doing it full time one day.
So, all right. Normally we focus more on the like farm stuff, but I love your Dahlia software. So, talk to us about this because dahlias are amazing and there are like 8 gazillion different types of them. They all look different, they grow differently, they're fabulous. And people who like dahlias are really obsessive. Like it's kind of this cult, I think, that once
Yeah.
seriously, and I mean that in the not the scary like eating things that you shouldn't be eating sort of cult, but it's like once you're in them, you just kind of never get away from them. So talk about how you got into dahlias yourself and what this software is, because I'm going to shamelessly market your software today.
I love it. Yeah, so I got into dahlias probably 2017, 2018. Um, Granted, I had grown dahlias as a kid growing up in LA, but they're perennials there, so you can put them in the ground and sort of forget about them. They're quite the prima donna over here in New Hampshire, so we have to do all the things to keep them growing. So I got into
Talk to me
them.
about all the things. For those people who are not
Yes.
dahlia
If you're
farmers, what
not,
are all the things that
If
you
you're
do?
not dahlia obsessed, then know that dahlias are high maintenance because you have to, assuming that you're in a colder growing zone, you have to wake them up in the spring, put them in the ground, and you can't put them in the ground till well after last frost. And then you get blooms maybe August, if you're lucky and wake them up early enough, maybe July. And then they really get cranking in the fall and they go right up until frost. And then at frost, you have to dig these babies up, bring them inside, store them, divide them, and then you start the whole process over again. So they are not low maintenance. It's kind of like growing a tropical. If you're not, zone 8, 9, 10, then you keep them in the ground and it's easy.
Right. Okay, so you got into your dahlias,
Yes. So I got
and
into
then
dahlias.
and then
I
we got
just
into software.
Yeah, I mean, my day job is in software, as is my husband's. And so I, every person who has dahlias keeps a spreadsheet, whether it's on paper or digitally, like it's a collection. So you want to know what's in your collection, how it's performing, what the stats are on your collection. So much like any collector, you want to have that collection. And I had a spreadsheet, but I just knew that there could be software built specifically to this that would be to save you tons of time. So I finally convinced my husband in 2024, like, I think we could build software for this because there's none that exist purpose built. There are 300,000 people on the Dahlia Growers Facebook group, and among all of them, there still wasn't software built for this. So
Wow.
about a year ago, we finally built a alpha version and then rolled out and have been doing this for the last year. And it is so nice because what the software does is we have a database of over 50,000 dahlia varieties.
That
And
you curate, right? So
mhm,
you are,
yeah,
I think that's one of the really key things here because, I also I like spreadsheets. I
yeah.
actually follow a guy on Instagram, that Nick Powers guy. He is big into spreadsheets.
Oh,
He
yeah,
uses them for politics, but he's like obsessed about spreadsheets. And I'm kind of like that, except I'm not as good at them. So I'm obsessed with them theoretically. And so
yeah,
I do build my own spreadsheets to do like my money tracking and that kind of stuff because I can color code it. I can do whatever I want with it. And I love that. But when you're talking about having to populate it for all of these different flowers, that takes a lot of time and
yeah.
that's a lot of information. So when you pre-populate your spreadsheet that people can, or your, it's not a spreadsheet anymore. It is now
Yeah.
software.
Yeah.
So what is included in that for each of these 50,000 flower varieties?
Yeah.
Not flowers, just dahlias, right?
Just
Just
dahlias right now.
dahlias.
Yeah, so for most of them, it's going to have country of origin, hybridizer, year introduced, as well as the American Dahlia Society information around size, color, form, because dahlias, of course, they have all the things going for them. Also, the height, and then their bloom size down to the inch. Those are all important to anyone growing who's looking, an 8-inch dahlia is not the same as a 2-inch dahlia. So, all of those things auto-populate, and those are the things that people can spend hours researching, and then they buy a new dahlia and they have to do it again. And then the other thing is there are so many hybridizers that there are now hundreds of new varieties coming out every year. So I'm collecting those, putting them into the database. So as people get new varieties, the information's already there. And then we've photographed so far about 750 that have stock photos, and I'm going to add hopefully a few thousand more this summer.
So if I were a dahlia grower, because I mean I'm already juiced up on your software. And I will be like completely transparent. I don't do dahlias.
Yeah,
And my parents do. My parents grow cut flowers and stuff on their farm. So I have very close familiarity with them. I don't grow them because they are so high maintenance because for me like even even some of the perennials I have are not supposed to be perennials, but I'm just not going to go and dig stuff up in the fall. I'm not going to do it. I'm lucky. I'm lucky if I actually ever cut down any of the old growth from my plants and I don't just wait for like spring growth to come and
yeah.
push the old growth over. I am a horrible gardener. I go, no, I'm going to reframe that. I am a very wild and free.
Laissez-faire.
Exactly. It's like, come into my circle, grow large, do your thing, and I won't hinder you. So, but dahlias don't like that. They like to be hindered and loved and coddled, and I'm not going to coddle them, but I find them fascinating. So if you were somebody who's going to be waking them up in the spring and putting them to bed in the fall and, giving them all the tender love and care that they need, what is the benefit, aside from being able to get all the basic information? What is the benefit of your software to them?
It's to track all those pieces, right? So folks want to know, what is my first dahlia to bloom every year? What are the ones that don't bloom until a week before frost? Which ones do I need to wake up earlier? Because the dahlias have really vast gene pools. And so the difference between one dahlia variety to the next can be quite large. One could take 2 months to wake up out of storage, and one could be 2 weeks. And so if folks are tracking some of these details per variety, over time, then they can see how they should treat them differently. Certainly, if they're trying to make money selling the stems or the tubers, then they're tracking things like how many tubers does this one do? Does it
Yeah.
store well? Is it worth it? How many stems can I get for a season? Folks will use our tool to sell extra stems to florists and be able to show, here are all the varieties that I have available, and here's the quantity, and give like a price list. So it depends. if you're a hobbyist, you're just looking for that information to kind of curate your collection. And then if you're selling them, there's a lot more tools. We also have hybridizing tools for people who are trying to breed new dahlias.
Oh, talk to me about that because the whole breeding that is its own type
Yeah.
of farming as well. No, seriously.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, there's
totally.
we had a seed, we have had a seed saver on just a few weeks ago, and I hadn't even really gotten into the differences in how you grow things just for seed because I've always grown for like the product, for the food,
Yeah.
for the flower, not for the seeds themselves. And so it's a different mindset altogether.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so talk to me about this for dahlias as well.
Yeah, to your point, it's totally different. Like even the way you'll bed plan in the software is different because you'll probably want to have things by form based on your hybridizing goals in different parts of your landscape. So it's a fully separate section of the software because hybridizers will be growing out seedlings over multiple years and
Yeah.
seeing how consistent are they? Do they look the same year one to year four? Is it ready to go to trial gardens? And so you're looking at that, and then we also have the ability to track almost like ancestry DNA. So you can start to put
Mm,
in who are the parents, and now we can see who are the grandparents because we had that information. And over time, you can start to see the lineage of some of your dahlias because the biggest question in hybridizing is always what makes a good seed parent? Who are
yeah.
the best parents? I
Yeah.
want to invest my time there. Every hybridizer has different answers, and most of the best hybridizers hybridize from their own seeds. So they'll have six generations of things that you've never seen before you see a named variety. And so they can track all that in the software versus on paper. Or some of the really great hybridizers that are getting older have it all in their head, which I'm very impressed by, but it's being lost for the next generation. So we've seen some good partnerships where a younger mentee might be tracking in our software to start to get some of that institutional knowledge down on paper or
Yeah, no, I think
software.
that's a really interesting component that I hadn't really considered because it is, when you were talking about the hybridizing, the first thing that I thought of was racehorses.
Yeah, there you go.
It's kind of silly, but it is, being a horse fanatic myself, that parentage is so important when you're breeding horses for any purpose or dogs or, anything that you're breeding.
Yeah.
But the parentage is really important because you can have a line where the parents are amazing. They either look the way you want, they behave the way they want, they do all of the above, but they don't necessarily pass that down to their
Yes.
children, or they pass certain characteristics down to their children, but they need to be mixed with a parent that has a different set of skills. So like when we were
Mhm.
dairy farming, we used to look through the stud book all the time for
Oh, yeah.
breeding our cows
Yeah.
because we were building, looking for milk production primarily, but the herd that we had gone into had terrible, terrible feet. And so like we had to the extent that there was one cow that her name was Ski, and it was because her I'm not
Oh
kidding.
my
The poor
gosh.
thing, her feet looked like skis. Like it was, and we did not do that to her. Like it was already, she
Yeah.
she already was ski before we got her. But the feet were awful in that herd because they had their own bulls. They didn't use artificial insemination. So whatever bulls they had were the ones that they bred with. And they ended up breeding in really bad legs.
Mm.
So when we were looking at bulls, one of the things that was really important to us was getting good legs back in there. So we wanted nice compact udders because the udders on these cows, they produced like crazy, but they'd like the teats would spread out. So it was that whole idea that,
Yeah.
well, you're getting one good thing from this lineage, but you're not getting the whole package. And I think that's what hybridizing is all about. We talk about hybrid vigor. So we're trying to get these plants that also have all those characteristics. And if we just know it in our heads, but we're not passing it on, you're right. There's like this whole vast experience of, well, we don't breed this one with this one because of this. We breed this one with this one because of that. And
Yes.
and your software helps do that for the dahlia.
Exactly. And And I think the hardest thing new hybridizers that I hear from new hybridizers is they don't know which plants to cull, right? They're growing too many things out for too many years because it has a beautiful bloom, but they're not looking at the form of the plant, the durability of the tubers, like other things that make a difference when you go to market with something. So the software guides people to do that because it has fields for that, right? So it's like, oh, I guess I should be tracking vase life. Maybe I should look at that for my different things. So we've been building in as more hybridizers ask, I track this, I track that. The nice thing is collectively, then there's a really good set of here are the things that are important to understand when you're hybridizing. So I think it's really helpful too for newbies.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, my eyes lit up the minute you started talking about this, and I really find this whole software system really amazing. So right now, while I'm doing my like plug for you, how do people get a hold of you? You are going to give me the link so that I can,
Yes.
so people can buy this from you, and you have incredible deals on this. People, okay, let me just tell you. I am going to talk to her about raising her prices. So if this sounds juicy, you need to do it now
Yeah.
before I get a hold of her because it
Yeah.
will never be as inexpensive for you as it is right literally this moment. So
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It is my passion because the work that you're doing, Holly, is amazing and it needs to be remunerated because I firmly believe that all of us in agriculture, all of us, period, forget just agriculture, but when we're bringing our passion and our expertise and our experience into a venue and we're offering something really important, there should be something coming back to you. Like, it's wonderful if we're all independently wealthy and we can give away all our knowledge. I cannot wait till I'm at a point where where I don't have to worry about bills and like I can just give all of my services away. Most of us aren't there yet.
I know. And to your point, I mean, I we do want to do this full time at some point. There's plenty of work to do that. And my goal is to stay in business for my customers. Our first, customers that have been using us for the last year, they want us to stick around because they want to keep using this into the future. So absolutely. But yeah, I didn't even mention, I think that the tool is called Clade. And it's at useclade.com since we couldn't actually get clade.com. So useclade.com. And that's the same on Instagram, Facebook, all use Clade.
Use Clade. And if you're curious, I think if you see in the corner, you can see Clade right there, Clade. So that's awesome. Okay, so we've geeked out on software for a
Yes.
little bit, and I love geeking out on software,
Yeah.
but you do a lot of other things. You do the cut flowers. Talk to me about the landscape design as well, because that sounds like
Mhm.
something that you kind of fell into. Uh,
Yeah.
like you did it for yourself, but then you had neighbors who just said, "Wow, I really love what you're doing." Talk to us about that as well.
Yeah. So I've been gardening my whole life, but what really changed things is when we bought this property in New Hampshire, I decided this garden I'm going to plan out ahead of time instead of just buy plants that are really pretty that I like, throw them in, move them around over time, get to the
Oh,
garden I want.
oh,
So
we're
I
not supposed to
actually
do that, are we?
I know. I mean,
No, I'm
I
just
still do
teasing.
that a little bit, but at least this time I actually drew out every single bed, planned it out, what I'm going to have in them. Of course, things change because things die or don't thrive, but in essence, the bed had a theme, it had a plan, it had cohesion going into it, and that also gave me a lot of practice with drawing, with actually creating landscape plans. And yeah, as I started to have, neighbors, friends over the first few years here, folks would ask me like, "Hey, do you do this? Like, do you have a formal background in this? Like, could you help me?" And I don't have a formal background in this. I just really like it. And so, I said yes a few times here or there. And now, like, I'm fairly regularly picking up garden design commissions for folks, which I absolutely love because it gives me an opportunity to dream outside of the confinements of my own garden
Oh,
space. Like
love
right
that.
now, I'm working on someone's who has a garden almost in the woods with high deer pressure. And it's like a great challenge for me because I don't have those those pieces, right? Like I know in theory what should work, but it's also kind of a fun experiment. Um, And I think it's the antithesis of a lot of the landscaping companies around here because a lot of the landscaping companies, they're there for the profit, they're there for maybe the hardscaping is what got them into it, but most of them don't know very much about plants. So that's been the niche I've been filling is like I know an awful lot about plants and what plants enjoy what conditions, and that's where I'm adding value.
Well, and I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, but there are different approaches to landscape design as well. And some are more utilitarian, where I think there are companies that have a few basic plants that they use that they can rely on, that they know that are they're not going to die very well. I mean, any
Yeah,
plant can die, but
sure.
let's admit it. We've got plants that are tougher than others and you're up in New Hampshire. I'm in New England. The further north you get, the tougher it is to overwinter things. You want things that are going to work well. And so when you have a few plants that you like, you end up just using them because
Yeah,
you know that they're going to be reliable. And they're not necessarily, I mean, I don't think there are bad plants, but they're not necessarily unique. Your yard can end up looking like everybody else's yard because
yeah,
they're the things that are easy. I was married to a horticulturalist who loved variety. And so but variety within, so you're talking about dahlias.
yeah.
We don't have dahlias, but like Japanese maples. Well, you get one Japanese maple, and then my ex was like, well, now we have to have every type of Japanese maple that will live in our area. So you end up with 6, 8, 10 different varieties of Japanese maple. And it happens, viburnums. Oh my goodness, I had no idea how many different viburnums there were. And they're all amazing and they're all unique. And peonies. I fell in love with peonies. So we have like 6 or 8 different types of peonies in our yard. So when you're experienced in that, then you can bring all this different kind of variety in as well that I think not everybody can do. So
Yeah.
talk to me about what are you doing in that high deer pressure wooded area? I have a cool
Yeah.
little shade garden that's kind of a wooded garden, and the deer have just in the last couple of years started discovering it. So I'm starting to use cages around like some of my cooler hostas and that kind of stuff because they didn't get eaten before and now they are. So
Yeah,
what
I mean,
what do you
hostas,
do back there? Yeah,
yeah, hostas are, I think
they're
someone
tough.
said this the other day to me, they're like a salad bar
They
here.
are.
So yeah, we won't be doing hostas. We're going to try to lean into some natives. It is luckily a little bit of a clearing within the woods, so it does get a few hours of sun. And I am a big fan of prairie grasses, like little blue stem.
Mm,
What we want to kind of lean into the fact that around here, if you leave an empty piece of land fallow, you're going to get goldenrod, like you're going to get a lot of natural prairie things that come in anyways. And so
mhm.
how can we augment that? We also are going to go with a lot of like woolly or silver things because they tend to not be bugged so much, right? Like we could do a sage, we can do a lamb's ear, like things that aren't going to be particularly interesting. And then there are some like evergreens. We're going to try some Oregon grapes, for example. We think that the knock on wood that the deer won't like them. They're a little bit spiky, kind of like a holly,
Yeah,
but get some fragrant flowers. So we're going to try a few different things, but keep it a little bit more on the wild side, a little less formal.
I
I'll
love
let
it.
you know. In like 2 years, I'll know how it went.
Well, that's perfect because we love having our guests come back and it theoretically, I haven't been doing this long enough, but
Yeah,
I keep saying in 2 years I'm gonna like just start cycling through and
yeah,
go back and visit all my old guests and be like, so how are
that'd
things?
be fun. I'd
Yes,
be on year four.
exactly.
I'd know so much more.
So so you were also talking about now you're doing cut flowers as well, right?
hmm
And so how did that evolve? Because this is like the second year you said you've done this
Yeah,
for 2 years now?
second year I'm selling cut flowers over the summer. And I mean, I think I've just had a passion for cut flowers ever since starting dahlias. And so I always was following Florette and seeing, what she's growing. And so well before I ever thought I was going to sell them, I simply was growing cut flowers for myself to make bouquets. I've always loved arranging. And so um, I've already, for many years, grown almost every cut flower under the sun. to your point of collecting, I always love to see like, could I grow that? Could I try that? But now I'm actually the big goal is to narrow down the focus, like what actually works and lasts in bouquets, what's worth it. I think the biggest learning experience year one is where were my gaps in the season where I didn't
Mm.
have as much as I would like to have had. Were there times when I had too much of the same type of thing, like a bunch of focal flowers without filler, that sort of thing. So this year is going to be refining what I grow when.
Oh, that's really interesting. So what are some of the changes that you have made in
Yeah, so
response to that? I mean, it sounds like some filler flowers are one of those things. Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
I'm growing Lysianthus for the first time from plug trays. I usually start most things from seed.
Okay.
Lysianthus is hard to start from seed, and so I hadn't done it in the past. I've got a few trays of that, so that'll be good to have one more focal flower towards the part of summer where I don't have a ton of dahlias yet.
Hmm.
Um, I also leaned heavily into roses, which will give me a lot of focal flowers in June. And a lot of that was planted last year, but your first year with a rose, you don't get very much. So that'll be really good this year. And then I finally decided I'm going to regrow things I really liked in the past, like snapdragons. I didn't grow any snapdragons last year. I had liked them in the past. They are kind of annoying to start from seed. They take quite a bit of work, but I'm going to do it again. That they're started, they're waiting to go.
Yeah, so I'm hearing these plants and I'm saying, "Oh, I like them and I can't grow them." So snapdragons do not like me. Like I
Yeah.
feel like they should be super easy. In theory, they're not complicated, so I've been told. But I have a really hard time getting them to do their thing. So like I've finally given up on them and it's a shame because I really love them. But roses are another thing. So you are growing roses for cut flowers,
Yeah.
which to me is just an amazing concept because, again, roses and I do not get along. And I think there is maybe we're noticing a theme here. And that theme would be if you need a lot of really targeted TLC, you're not going to survive in Kay's yard. I don't know. That could be the theme we're getting that maybe I'm just a little bit too laissez-faire about all of my gardening. Um, but talk to me about how you choose what roses to grow, how you cultivate them, because I feel like that could be a really tough thing up in in New Hampshire. Like I feel like they might struggle to overwinter. So
Yeah.
talk to me about how you do that. Maybe I'll
So,
learn something and be able to do
yeah.
better with mine.
Yeah, roses can be, in fact, I just did a garden design class this last weekend and I told people, unless you want to be out there gardening, don't plant roses
Mm,
because even like a knockout rose to me needs pruning at least once a year and some fertilization. Like
okay.
they sit in one spot, you have to fertilize them. Now, I don't go crazy. I don't do systemic because I try to do everything organic.
Hmm.
If something is just perennially has black spot, I either have to get rid of that variety if it's completely shedding all its foliage or move it to a new location. They do like lots of sun, so luckily I have tons of sun. In a better world, I'd have well-drained soil, but I have clay in a lot of places, so they just have to, deal with that. To me, my strategy has been growing a ton of different varieties from different parts of the world. So I have Japanese roses, I have the English garden roses, I have florist roses, I have roses that are bred in Canada, so they're really hardy down to like
Hmm.
zone 3. And now I'm trying to narrow that down to which ones do really well because there are ones that just are glossy and beautiful and happy all summer, and I don't have to spend any effort on them. And
I
then there
want
are ones
those.
that I know. I know. Well, several of the David Austin are
My
very
sister
happy.
likes those. My sister has amazing. Now, you want to talk about somebody who is like you, who
Yeah.
creates the ideal gardens. I mean, her yard should be in Better Homes and Gardens. I am not even exaggerating. Her roses are always amazing. Like she is just
I
wow.
hope she's been on this podcast.
No, it's hard to get her onto the
Uh,
podcast because she doesn't consider herself a farmer, even though she like does wedding flowers and yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. I will get her here. But yes, so she loves the David Austin roses, just
yeah.
absolutely loves them. And
Yeah.
what is it about them for those of us who are not huge rose people, but are thinking, huh, I could try. I could try roses one more time.
Yeah.
What is your, go-to variety? Do you have a go-to David Austin rose?
If I just wanted to pick one rose and it wasn't necessarily for a cut flower, but it was just like a healthy bulletproof David Austin, it'd be Lady Shallot.
Okay.
She's got these beautiful kind of orangey yellow flowers. They're prolific. She blooms all season long.
Mhm.
Um, she the only reason she's not as good of a cut flower is she only has a few petals per rose, and the bees love her, so they're over there pollinating her. So anything that gets pollinated isn't as good of a cut flower. But I always have to have her. And
Tell
then,
me about that. Hold on. I'm going to
yeah,
stop
go
for a
ahead.
minute. So why is it that the things that are pollinated more are not good cut flowers? This is where I'm showing my ignorance.
Yeah, it's just a life cycle of a plant, right? So once something gets pollinated, it's triggered to make seed. So it's going to generally drop its petals and be ready to
Right.
go,
That makes
unless
sense.
it's bred to have pollen but be sterile, which obviously isn't great for wildlife anyways. But that's why a super, double rose that doesn't show its pollen until the very end is going to just last a little bit longer.
Okay.
One of my favorites on that end is Ashley. She's a florist rose, and she will last on the bush if I don't cut her a month. It's just
Wow.
beautiful. I have her right outside my office, and she's just always blooming. But
What
as a cut
color is
flower,
she?
easily 2 weeks.
What color is she?
Pink, like a lipstick pink. Yeah.
Ah, nice. Fascinating. So, okay, so we gotta check out the Lady Shallot and we gotta check out the Ashley roses.
Mhm.
That is just amazing to me. So, when you do your roses, like I'm hearing also that you're doing a lot of experimenting to see, what's working and what's not working. And I'm thinking again about your software. Are you tracking that in a similar like can you use your Dahlia software to do your roses as well, or have you not?
I want to. I'm smiling because I want to. I was like, my birthday was in January, and asking my husband, I
Oh,
was
happy
like,
birthday.
I was like, can you just build me out like a module for roses for my birthday? And then I realized I couldn't distract him from what we needed for our customers. But yeah, the goal is one day to be able to have other flowers in the software. And top of my list is roses because I do have over 150, I don't know, might be 250. And what I did is I printed them out, like pictures of them from Kinko's or whatever, and then I on the back I wrote like 4 to 6 feet. Here's the hybridizer, like where I have it planted, all the details. So I very manually have my collection right now.
Okay, so, huh. Hmm. It sounds like you got to do it. Like
Oh yeah.
because I yeah, because I think roses, wow. And even, I'm thinking about the usefulness for people who are not even growers so much, but as I said, my sister does floral design for weddings and
Mm,
stuff, and she's amazing. And because she is also a grower, she grows a lot of her own stuff as well, but she's just obsessed with flowers. So she knows how long certain plants last. Like she knows all of this stuff about them.
yeah.
And I think a lot of designers need to learn that, but they don't always learn it. And
Yeah.
and it's hard to know everything and to keep it all in your head. So I feel like this is a resource that would even be super, super helpful for them as they're trying to figure out, what to grow or what to order, what to stay away from, what to use when. Like I feel like
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of, summer weddings. I think of summer weddings
Education
and
there.
the stress that certain flowers go under because I've helped my sister set up for weddings and stuff before. So I know what it's like when you're building those arbors and it's 95 degrees out there and or they're being whipped around because you're overlooking the Narragansett Bay because you've got this beautiful mansion that you're at the top of the rocks and the wind's going shh, 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 and
Yeah, I
the,
would
the
not put a
arbor's
David
like
Austin rose out there. You'll end
and
up with photo.
you're trying to keep the flowers like in and not losing all their petals and
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Because those random sticks don't look quite as attractive as all the pretty colors.
not so much. Yeah, it's funny. I never thought of the like florist application. Roses are so different than dahlias. Dahlias is very democratic because anyone can collect some seed from one of their dahlias, and every single seed is going to produce a different flower, and you're going to get that season.
Hmm.
Versus roses with grafted rootstock and all the patents and licensing and trademarks going around that. Like the breeding of them is concentrated on, 2 dozen breeders around the world, but the collecting of it is a huge community. So it is very different, and that's been the biggest hesitation going into that. Is it's very much more could be software for consumers of roses versus breeders. Because we're, a lot of ours is B2B now, not just hobbyists. So,
Yep.
anyways, I digress. But roses are gorgeous and such a passion of mine, but they're just very different.
No, I don't think it's digression at all.
Yeah.
I think it's again just looking at the industry and how even within an industry, things like patents, that was always something that my ex talked a lot about, that there are certain plants like you're just not supposed to reproduce them. Like
Yeah.
even in your yard, like you're not supposed to take cuttings of them because it's technically illegal.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, people put years and years of effort into creating these varieties, and then if everybody just goes and reproduces them on their own, then the people who did all the work don't get any money for it. And again, it
Hmm.
goes back to that. I love the word democratic that you were using about flowers because I've never really thought about them that way,
Yeah.
but there really is something democratic about being able to just keep reproducing your plants and not having to worry about the legal ramifications of reproducing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, super, super interesting. Super interesting. Um, so I'm looking at some of the stuff that I've got here, and you were also talking about the fact that you do monthly workshops. So talk to me
Yes.
about your monthly workshops. How do you do that? Who do you advertise to? Who comes? What do you do there?
Yeah. And so I have last weekend I did garden design. This upcoming weekend, I'm doing seed starting, and I'm just picking a different topic every month. I'll do Easter flower arranging, Mother's Day bouquets, and I think I'm going to do boutonnieres and corsages for June. So that's how far I've gotten this year, and then I'll figure out the second half of the year. But my goal is a workshop every month, getting myself to put it on the books. But so far between posting on Instagram and Facebook. I've gotten good attendance. Surprisingly, not as many repeat folks. Like there's just constantly new folks hearing about the things and joining. And it seems like the folks who'll do my Christmas flower arranging are not necessarily the folks who want to do garden design or not necessarily the folks who want to do seed starting. Um, so that's been really interesting. I get to meet a whole new group of folks every month, and I love it. I get so much energy from those workshops. The garden design one's a little bit long. It's a 3 hour workshop, but I end up with so much extra energy at the end because everyone's just been getting so many ideas and they walk away with like a whole bunch of new inspiration for the spring, which is fun.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested, that I think this is a really important point for farmers because, a lot of farmers do different versions of agritourism or
Mhm.
training or, workshop type things. And I think in business, we often think that we're gonna build these repeat customers that like our my consultant calls them your raving fans. Like who are your raving fans? The people who just love everything you do and they spread the news to everybody and they come to every workshop and they read every newsletter and they do all of that stuff. And yet, as you were describing the different workshops, I was like, oh, I totally get why they would appeal to different people because yeah, the people who want to do maybe wreath building in the winter are not necessarily the ones who like going out and playing in the dirt in the spring.
Yeah.
And the people who might really enjoy designing might not be the ones who want to start everything from seed. They might want to just go and buy their plants
Hmm.
pretty established and, put them in the ground. And so I think that's a really interesting idea. And I'm wondering how you follow up with your clients, because like
Yeah.
do you keep them in segmented lists, where you've
Yeah.
got, oh, these are my winter workshop people, and I advertise more to them on winter workshopy type ideas, or how
Hmm.
do you do that from a business perspective so our farmers out there can
Can think about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
get
and
their
I
wheels
think
turning.
you said it so well, and it makes sense in hindsight that it's not the same folks, but that wouldn't have been my assumption.
Uh-uh.
So I ran my first workshop last I want to say July or August, and I did it at a local playroom, mostly as like a favor to the person, but I'm like low stakes because I'm not getting paid except for supplies, and she has to advertise it, whatever. And it was super fun, went really well, but I was floored when I have everyone introduce themselves and say what they want to learn, why they're here, and almost down to a person, no one had even like bought flowers at a grocery store and arranged them before. I think one person had taken an arranging class, but I think it's easy to assume everyone's probably like me. Like my end customer is me. They've, they just enjoy all things flowers and gardening. And that has not been true. Like the folks that take my workshops, um, sorry, phone, the folks that take my workshops for flower arranging generally are people who have never done flower arranging before. It's something that they just want to do as an experience with a friend or their mom. The folks who did the garden design drove in from quite a distance away, a lot of them. So those folks wouldn't necessarily get my bouquets in the summer because, they had to drive an hour to get here. And then my best customers for my summer bouquets, they don't want to arrange flowers themselves. The best part of their week is that they get a bouquet delivered to them. Like they're there for
That
the
would be me.
aesthetics, you know?
That would be me.
Yeah.
Because I can't design my way out of a paper bag. It doesn't matter. I think we might have talked about this in the screening, but my sister who can take practically, really, actually, not practically, she takes sticks and puts them into an arrangement, and suddenly it's art. And I'm like, how did you do that?
I love
I, on
that.
the other hand, take these beautiful flowers, put them in a vase, and I'm like, and they still look wrong. And like, how do you make flowers look wrong? I can do it. I can do it because there is just a skill to it. And my sister says, anybody can do this. I'm like, not this anybody. So I have her design it, and then I take her designs home. And so I
And
would
then
be
you
one
enjoy
of
it.
your people who was like,
Yes.
please don't even give it to me wrapped up with the thing around the bottom, like the elastic around the bottom, because then I have to come home and I have to cut the ends and I have to like figure out where everything goes.
Yeah.
And somehow I don't know if it's that I picked the wrong size vases. I don't know if I cut them too short, cut them too long. I do not know, but every single time I'm like, doesn't look like
Something
Sam would
changed.
do. Sam would do this much better. So
Yeah.
I would be the sort who would say, please don't send like don't just give me a jar of flowers. I want you to arrange the flowers and I will pay you a little extra because they will look beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is super, super
And
interesting.
And to answer your question, like how do I do it segment? And I'm trying to get better at this. So a lot of folks are purchasing things through Shopify since I have a Shopify store.
Okay.
And so the good thing is in Shopify, I can segment by what they bought. And I also, because I do tuber sales, I have some folks in there that are, in Nebraska, like they're not coming to my local things. And so I have two different newsletters. I send every other week, but then I have my non-locals and I send that differently than my locals. Um, and that's as sophisticated as I got. I would love to allow people to subscribe using like different check boxes for what they're interested in,
I'm
but I
trying to
have
figure that
yet to
out too.
figure out a plugin that makes sense with Shopify that I'm not paying for something extra. So that's on the to-do list, but at least right now, once they do subscribe, I am segmenting by location.
Okay. All right. I think this is amazing. So, you know, I feel like this has been a super kind of businessy visit, which is really kind of exciting because I think farmers need to look at that part of their business as well. And this is actually a really good time of year to be doing it because it is spring and we're in the middle of, starting to plant, theoretically starting to plant. We still got 2 feet of snow out in my
Yeah,
yard.
there's a snow plow going down the road right now since we got 8 inches last night.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. We got rain. Okay, so all of the rain that we got that turned into like puddles everywhere, which still we've got snow everywhere, but the snow is like holding the water in, so we've got flooding and oh,
the
it's
worst.
lovely. Yeah, because you got snow. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
I keep trying to harden off. I have pansies that need to go outside, and I keep trying to harden them off, but they're in again today. So,
Yes, because there is a very fine line between hardening off and winter killing.
yeah, exactly.
And the two we do not want to confuse.
And it keeps going back and forth. I think it's going to be 70 later this week. So,
So strange, right? This is like anybody who is doesn't when I was growing up, my parents were like, "Oh, there's no such thing as global warming. It's all a leftist blah 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 blah." And now I'm like, and I like that we've changed from global warming to climate change. I feel like it's a little less triggering for people, but it still can be a little triggering. And I'm like, I think that if we look at this, like climate has cycles for sure, and what we're experiencing now is definitely not what we used to experience.
it's
And
definitely
then this
changed.
winter, we got a winter that I'm like, I remember when winter was like this. Like, I remember as a kid when we had snow all winter, when we ice skated on our pond all winter, because once it got cold, it stayed cold. Like, all winter. And we've had such mild winters in New England for years, decades, a decade now. And so this has been really interesting. Like my kids got it was their first blizzard. Like they'd never seen a blizzard. And the blizzard they got was like the worst,
The
even
worst.
worse than 78, which I'm
Yeah.
like, how does this happen? I don't
I know.
know.
I've only been in New England since 2015, and already it's moved a half as growing zone. So where I am now at this property would have been 5B, and now it's 6A. And that happened just in the 11 years that I've lived here. And then where I grew up in LA was zone 9. And when I was growing up, so we got rain, like we could grow tulips and stuff. Like it was just very different growing up. And now it's very much desert. Like you grow cactus, it's zone 10.
Wow.
So I've definitely experienced that part in gardening for sure.
Oh, so wish that we had gotten into that topic a little earlier because I think that's
I'm glad we went through
great.
the businessy stuff because to me that's been the hard part of
Ah,
that's been the learning curve for me. I mean, I've been growing stuff for a long time. That's not been the tricky part. It's been, and there's so many resources on every plant out there. It's
yeah.
the business part. Um, I don't have a small business background. I work at, tech organizations where there are people to handle all the little jobs that now is all on me.
You. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really important, and I've said that to farmers a lot that we sometimes feel badly about ourselves because we struggle with some of the business stuff, with the marketing, with the advertising. Farmers don't want to do it. Like, not only do we struggle with how to do it, we just don't want to do it. Like, so many farmers are like, I did not start farming so I could hang out on Instagram. Like, I don't want to be on Instagram. I don't want to be on Instagram. I don't want to be on Facebook.
I wasn't on Instagram before I started this business.
No,
So,
well, I
yeah.
am on social media because I am a business owner. That's the only reason I engage with social media. And so there are elements of that that we have to learn if we're going to be business owners in this kind of a forward-facing, customer-centered business. And so I think it's really helpful for farmers to hear what works for other people and also to kind of demystify it a little bit and say, we don't have to do it all perfectly. We don't have to do it all. You don't have to be on all the social media platforms. You don't have to use all of the I send out one email a week. I've got people who are like, you should be sending out 3 emails a week. I'm like, my people will not tolerate that. I won't tolerate that. So even if my people tolerate 3 emails a week from me, I'm not sending them 3 emails a week because when somebody sends me 3 emails a week that are just like, hey, I want to tell you about my business, I get annoyed and I end up unsubscribing. So some of it is you really have to figure out what works for you, but you also need to continue to grow. And I think
Mhm.
that's where this conversation's been so great because it has provided a little bit of both of those things. And we've given some, I think, very useful tools for how to be able to grow. And I am looking at the clock over here and I'm like, because it's been
Time flies.
so much fun, right? And I totally love talking to you, Holly. So before we wrap up for today, though, I need to ask you my signature question, which is if you could give all farmers one piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh man. I think I think my biggest thing is actually just doing this with community. So I think what's made a difference for me is spending time to go and reach out to other flower farmers locally and be like, can you go grab coffee? Like, can we talk? And now I have a group that I've just built in the last year that, meets once a month and every time there's a new face. And so um I don't think without that group this would be as meaningful or you know I would be moving a lot slower. So to me, that's actually where I would spend my calories first is can you make a few farming friends that do something similar or adjacent? Because that can be your support network.
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that sense of community is one of the most important things that keeps coming up on this show as well, that
Hmm.
farmers over and over and over are like, you gotta be in a group of people who are gonna be able to support you, educate you, that you can educate. It's like this whole synergy that happens when we find our people, and that helps us to be better at what we do, and it also helps to sustain us through the hard times, which,
Yeah.
as we all know, farming
Yeah.
is chock full of hard times.
Exactly. It's the, I one of the farmers I met up with, she's like, we had to plow through the whole field because a water line broke this winter. Like, who else are you going to cry on their shoulder but other farmers who feel the same pain as you?
Yes. Oh, I hear that and I'm like, oh, I have a water line that goes out to my frost freeze. I have two frost freeze out in the
Yes.
pasture. So it
Spit
goes from the
stroke.
house to the
Yeah.
barn to the frost freeze. And there is a leak somewhere because when I
Mm,
turn the water onto the barn, it floods my basement. And so I know that there's a leak and I know that I have to go and have somebody tear it up and figure out where the leak is and fix it. And I'm just like,
mm,
oh, I don't want to do that.
that's
So
the worst.
so tell her that I'm crying with
Yeah.
her. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's a very visceral response.
Yes.
Oh, Holly, this has been such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope to have you on again soon. Thank all of you, and we will see you next time on Food, Flowers, and Fun. Bye.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmworks calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.